1,000 words. Steve grew up with an Irish father who found it difficult to say and show he loved him. Because of his early life in extreme poverty as one of 13 children in small 3-room cottage in Ireland, Steve's father, Tom, did not know how to give and show affection or encouragement. He never hugged Steve or his siblings, but one day, his action spoke 1,000 words. Tonight, Steve tells us the story, 1,000 words. Please welcome Toastmaster Eval.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests and friends. As was introduced, my father was one of 13 children and grew up in rural West Ireland, a beautiful, unspoiled, scenic part of the world. But what wasn't mentioned in the introduction was that out of those 13 children, 5 died before the age of 3. Now today, that's going to sound like quite a shocking statistic. But in rural West Ireland in the 1930s and 40s, unfortunately, that was quite a common occurrence. Who knows that Ireland is the only country in Western Europe that has a population lower today than it was in the 1840s? That's an amazing statistic, especially when you consider that it's a Catholic country that shuns birth control and abortions. But it's true. Potato famines, mass exodus overseas, and pure poverty had its impact on the population. So with that backdrop, I think it's in some ways understandable that my father found it difficult to show love and affection to his children. His early life was one of survival, and I imagine a mother with 13 children going through that didn't have a lot of time to give love and affection to her offspring. I'm quite proud to be Irish, and I think they've given a certain influence to the rest of the world, especially the New World, and I'm proud of that. My father, when he moved to London, and the part of London that I lived to is predominantly Irish, married an English woman. And my mother, on the other extreme, gave me affection in spades, more than to compensate for what I didn't get from my father. But unfortunately, early in the marriage, their life came crashing down because my sister, Sharon, died when she was just 6 weeks old. Statistics show that the bond between a mother and her child at 6 weeks is about the strongest you can get. And my mother didn't really recover from that for about 15 years. So for the time immediately after that, she was in and out of psychiatric hospitals for quite a lot of the time. So I was brought up by Dad. Dad always made sure that I got sent out to school with clean clothes on my back, a breakfast in my stomach, and a hot supper when I came home from school at night, all while holding down a very demanding job. But he never showed the love and affection that my mother gave me. So I focused instead on my education, my studies, and playing soccer, which became a love of mine. The school that I went to, the high school I went to, was one of the lowest performing in the county, if not the region. But I managed to come out of it with 5 good grades, and I became quite an accomplished soccer player. I played for East of England. I used to always remember playing soccer and having that love, and if you're a lover of a sport, you want to share it with your father more than anyone else. But however much I spoke to Dad about it, he would just and look up from his newspaper or his book and not really have any connection. I always remember playing in those games and looking across to the sidelines and seeing all those cheering mums and dads and having that sinking feeling in my stomach when I knew that there was no one there to watch me. One year we got to the quarter-final of the All England schools. I was playing up front as a striker, that was my role. And we were 1-0 down with 20 minutes to go. And I was starting to feel very tired and thinking, this is going to be a tough finish to the game. And I could feel that the coach was going to pull me off at any time. And then I looked over to the dugout and I thought, that's my dad. I had to look twice, and sure enough, he gave me the thumbs up, and I knew it was my dad. All of a sudden, the energy within me lifted, and within about 30 seconds, I got a through ball, and I managed to beat these big defenders that had been marking me most of the game. I shot, and before the keeper had a chance to move, the net was bulging. All the guys came round to hug me, as they would normally do after you score a goal, but all I wanted to do was look over to see my dad. The players afterwards told me that was probably the best goal and most powerful shot I ever shot. But my head was just in the clouds at the thought that my dad was there to see me. After the game, when I came off, he patted me on the back, said, "You did well there, son. I'll see you at home." We didn't really talk about that game afterwards. We didn't have to. His words or his actions spoke 1,000 words to me that day. I spoke at my father's funeral, and so did my uncle. In his eulogy, my uncle stood up and said that my father used to brag to his friends, his drinking buddies down the pub, about his son, who was an accomplished football player, and how much he enjoyed watching him play. Gentlemen, talk to your kids, tell them how proud you are of them. Give them a pat on the back, a smile or a nod. A little boy has no greater hero than his father. Don't take those thoughts and those words to the grave. Madam Toastmaster.
Scott looks like he's ready, so at this time we'll have the evaluation. Please welcome Toastmaster Scott Brown.
Steve, your project goal tonight was to arouse emotion. Who here felt emotion? That was an amazingly well-crafted and well-written speech. The language you used brought so much clarity and drew us into your story so well. It's a great job to include us in your story. A couple suggestions that make this even more powerful. One, where were his hands in the entire speech? Almost like you were praying. Please let me get through this without breaking down. We could tell that you were reserved because it's an emotional thing for you. Let yourself go. Be free. Because you clenched up here, you missed an opportunity in a couple of places to really add punch. When you scored a goal, who here's ever seen a soccer game? When they score a goal, do they say, "Goal!" Let it out. Let us enjoy that same emotion that you had. The other thing is, your story was a dialogue. You talked to us. Imagine what it could have been if we shared the story with Steve. Dad, soccer is my love. It's what I was made to do. Let that passion come out. Release yourself and let yourself go. I grew up in an Irish family as well. Can't you tell from my accent? My father stopped watching me play baseball when I was 9. He never saw me play college ball. And I understand the emotion that you feel, and the anger and the love and the trust and all of those mixed emotions. Let yourself go and share it with us. Get animated. Why? My sister had to die. Draw us in. Amazingly well-crafted speech. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Phenomenal job. Do this one again.
Steve. I love your stories. You are an amazing storyteller. I really appreciated your eye contact. I